Welcome to Athar's Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the Schumacher LD3 stock spec, steps 29 and 30. So let's get started. Let's take a look at our control arms. This is going to be the right side control arm, and the way I can tell that is that I'm looking for two holes here on the outside of the control arm. There's only two holes on the front side. On the back side, there's three holes. These two are meant for using the suspension pin, whichever setting you decide to use, and this is for the small screw, which is M2.5 by 6 that goes in here to capture that pin. So the first thing we can do is install our ball stud in the centermost hole. So on the front of the control arm on both sides, we're going to install it in the center hole here. So let's go ahead and do that for both sides. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is assemble our hubs. So the hubs don't look directional. Looks like you can use them on either side, but this side here is flat. That will face the inside of the car, and this side here that is not flat will face the outside of the car. Flat inside, this side will face the outside of the car. So we need to insert the A-pill, and we're going to install this A insert into the hub, and it's showing the orientation to be, this will be my left side hub. So we want the hole to be on the outside and up position. So that was for my left side. And then for my right side, we're going to do the same thing. So right side, same thing, facing the outside and up. So we're going to install the outer hinge pin through this hole here in the outermost position and through the hub. So make sure that the hub is facing the correct orientation. There we go. Now we can install these little quick clips. These are kind of nice because you don't have to worry about basically threading in some shims while you put that hub in. So we're going to put two shims, two of these quick clips on the front, and they just snap on like that. And then we're going to install one of these quick clips behind the hub, just like so. So it is a little bit tight, but I think it'll wear in. It's not so tight that it's binding, so I'll just keep an eye on it. So the last thing that we're going to do for this is we're going to install this M2.5 by 6 button head screw in from the back side of the control arm in this hole right here. and the head of that screw is going to capture the hinge pin. And very light pressure until you feel it shoulder up, and it's good. You could do the same thing for the other side. Make sure the hub is in the correct orientation with the flat side facing the inside of the car and the non-flat side facing the outside. 2 quick clips on the front side and 1 quick clip behind the hub. And then lastly, the M 2.5 by 6 screw and the hole from the back side of the control arm until it shoulders up. There we go. So that's it for step 29. Let's move on to step 30. So for step 30, I have already taken out my bearings and popped the seals, cleaned the grease out and oiled them, something I would highly recommend. There's a link in the description below on how to do that process, so please check that out when you have time. So it tells us to lubricate or grease the CVDs before we use them, and I'm just going to go ahead and disassemble. I'm going to disassemble them so I can grease everything properly. So I basically undid the grub screw, pushed out this pin, and then pushed out the barrel. So I'm just going to lightly grease everything with the lithium grease that was provided. So lightly grease the barrel, and then I'm just going to go ahead and pop it into the axle, making sure that hole is lining up just like that. Next, I'm going to lightly grease this pin. And I'm going to stick the pin through this little stub axle and the barrel and make sure this flat is facing the side where the grub screw will go in. Okay, so everything's assembled there. I'm going to add a little bit of blue Loctite to the grub screw. And then I will reinstall it. And I can see the flat is facing the correct orientation. So I'm going to quickly do the other one, and then we can continue. Now we can install the bearings into the hubs. We're going to install the 5 by 10 by 4 bearing, which is the smaller one, on the inside of the hub, on the inner side. Then we're going to install one of these spacers, just like so. And then lastly, we're going to install the larger bearing, which is 5 by 12 by 4 from the outside. Do the same thing on the other side. So now we can install our axles through the bearings. And then what we're going to do here is make sure that these holes are going to be facing outward. We want to line up the hole in the wheel hex with the hole in the axle. We're going to then install the pin. As I inserted the pin, I also rotated it, rotated the axle so the pin doesn't fall out. And then lastly, we're going to install the 9x1 O-ring over the wheel hex into this groove right here. And that's going to capture the pin. There we go. Everything moves nice and free. Let's go ahead and do the other side. Okay. Everything moves nice and free like it should. I'm actually pretty happy with how it's turning out so far. The only thing that I'm going to keep an eye on is these Q-clips, these quick clips. I'll probably run the car a few times and then take this apart and see if it moves freely under its own weight. Looks like, you know, it does basically by itself. So it's not as free as I'd like, but I think after a few runs it'll kind of bed in, and the car needs some time to break in. So I think it'll be just fine. I don't want to take off any material then create additional slop. So there we go. So that's it for step 30 and this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Let me know down in the comments if you have any tips or tricks for these steps. That would be great for the community. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.